had to become open to the term homicide survivor. I'm not a victim of anything. My sister was the victim. But parents of murdered children was a godsend that I did not give a chance until we went to trial. We had to wait 9 years before we went to trial for many political reasons, for many judicial reasons. And it broke my heart because I felt like I was being like teased. It's like, okay, we're going to trial. Oh, but this bill came into place. This law came into fruition. Here's a setback, and then different moving parts of, the DA and the other person's lawyers. Like there's so much that goes into someone being murdered that you don't get a break. You don't catch a break. And yet you have to wake up every morning, and yet you have to pay your bills, and you have to breathe and move on. And it was an unraveling circle of me just trying to fight to keep her name alive, trying to advocate for her. And what parents of murdered children did for me is showed me it's okay.
Welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez. And today I'm with special guest, Patricia Franklin. She is a homicide survivor and is an author. She has written a book that holds a mirror to women to guide them through the different nuances of what it means to take care of their mental health. Welcome to the podcast, Patricia. How are you doing today?
I'm so good, Ryan, and what an honorable pleasure it is to be on your podcast today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I didn't mention the title of your book. Can you share with the audience what your book is all about and the title of it?
Surely. So first and foremost, we must do it where we can actually see the book itself. So it's called Sis, You Need Some Rest, a mental health guidance book for the hearts of the household. And the derivative of this book came actually last year when I was able to begin my healing journey. So I just felt it best that, to pen and paper that we must release everything that's on our mind, that's hurting us, but more or less so as a wife, mother, momtrepreneur, it was essential for me to let other women know how crucial our mental health is, how crucial our healing journeys are, and then, of course, how to create forms of self-care when we need to get a break from the world in our households.
And what was it that sparked you to start this journey of writing a book?
So if we must, we have to start from the beginning, of course. I have always been a writer. My first poem was actually written in the 8th grade, and I'm a poet before I'm a writer. Funny, right? So I have oh my goodness, I've written hundreds of poems, but I have never thought about creating a book until I begun my healing journey. I had to face my own fear of actually speaking and advocating for myself and other women, and being able to really revel in this is where I'm at in life. I have dozens of women I know that are in the same arena as me. And how do we get out of the mental health? How do we figure things out? How do we maneuver through being just a human being and wearing so many hats? So that's where writing a book came into fruition for me.
How has writing a book helped you in the whole healing process?
It's allowed me to face myself. It has allowed for me to face things that I have not faced before. It has allowed for me to reveal, revamp, and to really replenish my soul with recognizing, hey, you never got to grieve the loss of your sister properly. You never got to grieve the loss of your concrete maternal figures, which were my grandmother and my aunts. I just continued living and grieving simultaneously while still living life. And I had hit a rock bottom several times because I never had the time. Time is expensive. I call it that. And I never had the time to really face my grief and to really fully heal properly.
Yes, grief is something that people approach in different ways and sometimes maybe not approach it. And you have spoken on the power of writing, how it was able to really help you to confront some things. Before writing, what did healing or what did grief mean to you? Because I see that writing has helped so much, but how were you able to grieve before?
I grieved in the most unhealthiest way possible. I had grieved in crying on my way to work, functioning through work, and crying on my way home. I have grieved in putting my children to bed and crying while taking a shower, not recognizing the pain, the anguish that was actually inside. And my husband coming home from work and was like, "Whoa, are you okay?" I have grieved in shopping. Some people have their different nuances of how they grieve. Sometimes it's alcoholism, sometimes it's people, sometimes it's doing obsessive compulsive things to mask the depths of what's going on. And for me, I actually swayed away from the passions that I had. Writing was one of them because I felt like I had to fight it like any human being, functionally. You cry, it's a moment, you go to work, you go to bed. And it actually disrupted my discord. And I wasn't able to fully find myself because now I know who Patricia Franklin is. A year ago, you couldn't ask me, who's Patricia Franklin? I don't know. I was not able to answer that question. But with my sister's murder case closed, I was able to fully grieve and heal properly in a natural, healthy way.
We've spoken about the power of writing and getting to know yourself. You've been able to discover a, a, a healthier version of yourself through grief. But I want to take a moment to look at your sister. Beyond the headlines, who was she?
Her name was Alicia Faith Todd. Let's start always who she was. She was the closest thing to me. There was nobody above her, near her, anywhere that could ever gravitate to me more than she. We were 2 years apart. I am the eldest of 9 siblings, and she was right behind me. So when you grow up with someone who literally knows what you're going to say, can tell you what you're going to do, and literally know you like the back of their hands, and go through trauma with them and every nuance of what it means to grow and to have them taken from you, it does something to you. I never saw the world as an evil place before she was murdered. I never grieved before she was murdered. I never understood that the word grief even existed. I had no idea. Um, she and I were pregnant at the same time. I was actually pregnant with my oldest daughter. I was 5 months when she was murdered, and she was pregnant as well. And I was unaware of that until after her death. So here I am trying to move through now motherhood and move through my life as it's growing and sprouting. And here's the rebirth of me and losing my best friend. And at first, I was in denial. Her name was in the newspapers, and I was like, no, couldn't be. She's just not answering her phone, or we're unable to connect right now. But who she was a great big sister. We had younger siblings, as I mentioned. She was a track star. She was a community service worker. She loved her community. She was a scholar. I used to envy her because she could get through tests and not study. And I was a C plus kid. I was not a bookworm at the time. And she was also someone that I thought I would never have to learn to live without. Never. And I think that her murder, it opened up a different part of me that I never even thought I had in me. She used to push me, and it's so funny. She used to look up to me, but little did she know I used to look up to her. But she loved life, and she had a very big smile, cliche, but she did light up rooms, and she just loved love. Even though she and I weren't always affectionate towards each other, I knew that if I needed her, she'd be there, and likewise for me. So having her taken from me, and I say taken, I had to learn how to live life without her. So I say I was born in 1991, but my life started in 2015.
When something like that happens, I cannot understand. A lot of people, maybe some people in the audience might be able to understand somewhat, but I can't, and it's not. It's something that's I wish no one has to experience. But you weren't expecting this. As you said, she was taken away from you. It was just so sudden.
Mhm.
Um, and you've mentioned also having unhealthy ways of trying to get through the grief. Was there someone or something that pointed you into a direction where you were able to see that it is okay to grieve? Or what was that moment that you were enlightened where you needed to grieve in a healthier way?
I actually was very guarded after her. So it took me about 2 years to fully digest being a new mom. My sister is gone, and I was steadily pursuing my education and had been there thereafter. But Parents of Murdered Children was the organization who taught me how to grieve properly. Grief is real. Homicide is an unfortunate thing, but it is chilling and it is real. And when I first went to one of their meetings, they had group grief therapy. I was very turned off. I am a private person, and then now I'm a private, and now I'm a guarded person because I don't trust the world. I had to become open to the term homicide survivor. I'm not a victim of anything. My sister was the victim. I had to learn that it was normal for people to kill people and people are left and destitute of their loved one being gone. But Parents of Murdered Children was a godsend that I did not give a chance until we went to trial. We had to wait 9 years before we went to trial for many political reasons, for many judicial reasons. And it broke my heart because I felt like I was being like teased. It's like, okay, we're going to trial. Oh, but this bill came into place. This law came into fruition. Here's a setback, and then different moving parts of, the DA and the other person's lawyers. Like there's so much that goes into someone being murdered that you don't get a break. You don't catch a break. And yet you have to wake up every morning, and yet you have to pay your bills, and you have to breathe and move on. And it was an unraveling circle of me just trying to fight to keep her name alive, trying to advocate for her. And what Parents of Murdered Children did for me is showed me it's okay. There are people out there, strangers, who have been through the same thing you've been through. Some have written books, and are able to hold your hand, not knowing you, and want to really be there for you. And with them being there with myself and my family during my sister's murder trial showed me that there are still good people in this world, and that there are havens and outlets and avenues to seek, and to really put my guard down. To put my guard down and be open to what Parents of Murdered Children have to offer.
And what are some of the fruits that you personally encountered when you opened up to parents of marriage of murdered children?
Many of fruits, but that my fight for my sister was not in vain. That was one of the fruits that actually rippled into me because I felt like, she's gone. She's no longer here. And there's the grieving aspect of it, of missing her and wanting her and the milestones in my life and having children and, graduating college, But what they've provided me, and the fruit is that advocating is not done in vain. I kept her alive for 10 years. And even though she has been deceased for 10 years, just saying things like, I am her voice, remember her name, always remembering her birthdays, remembering her, what they call angel versaries, which is her death date, which was June 24th. And always ensuring that no matter what, she was not going to be that dead Black girl in the alley, that she was going to be a name, that she was a person. And that no matter how anybody felt about her, that she was going to be a dignified, legendary, legacied woman who wanted to live life, who was going to be a mother and who also was a well-loved sister and daughter in person. Another fruit that they provided me is that you're not alone. I felt very alone in my grief journey. And that's not to take away from my co-victim, my husband, or my family. But when you lose someone as close as she was to me, who literally breathed the same breath I breathed, and they're taking, as mentioned, you don't trust anybody after that. It took me years to even engage in friendships. It took me years to be vulnerable again. It took me a long time to see that there are people, good people, still out there, even though when my sister was here, I didn't need anybody. Like, we were the Todd girls. We were those girls.
For those who aren't victims, but let's say they know of a homicide survivor, do you have any advice of how they can approach somebody? Because sometimes when someone experiences a loss, people don't know what to say, or sometimes they say the wrong things, or sometimes they approach it in the wrong way. And maybe it's not, maybe they have good intentions, but it's just not the words that need to be heard. Do you have any advice for these people?
I would say, um, it depends on where that person is with grief. And unfortunately, it's not something we could always read. Um, I had a dear friend of mine actually offend me. Like, she said something offensive. And I think when someone first passes, or wherever this person is with grief, specifically homicide survivors, do not say that that person's watching over you. Do not say that um, you'll be with them again or stuff of that nuance, because they're gone. And the way and the manner in which they left us is very violent. And so, what I would advise this person to do in a healthy measure is say, depending on their faith, is I'm praying for you, or I'm thinking about you. Sometimes even saying something as simple as, what can I do for you, is enough. It's very simplistic, but it means so much to us, because when we are ready to get out of our beds of depression or wake up in the morning and see a new light or new day, we'll remember that. We'll remember who reached out. We'll remember who said, I want to take you out to coffee. We'll remember who was careful with us. And those are the people that we will allow in when we're ready. But the societal stigmatizations of this person near you, by you, and all that, it does not, it offends us. I can speak for me, because I wanted her back, because I was in denial for a long time. And even though I was at the mortuary, when they dressed her up and stuff, and I knew she was gone, there was still that small feeling of she's coming back. The denial. She's coming back, but just being not hypersensitive, but just being sensitive in how you really talk to that person.
Thank you for sharing that because I
You're
think
welcome.
it's always good for us to learn
Yeah.
and to be sensitive about these things.
Yeah.
And my next question for you is, well, how many years did it take from the passing of your sister to you sitting down and starting this book?
So, whew, it took 9 years. It took 9 years. Um, I was unable to fully heal or begin my full healing journey until the trial happened. I had so many questions. And unfortunately, with anything, rumors, they spur, they're everywhere. And so the blessing in waiting for 9 years was that many of people who had some closeness to my sister or to what happened, were able to not feel so fearful. So people move on, right? Because in their eyes, okay, well, she passed away. We had a funeral. It's over. No, it's not. There's the other part of it, the judicial part. And my parents were unable to fully be there for this part of my sister's passing, because it's like, okay, she's murdered, she's gone. Yeah, but there's a judiciary part. So I stood 10 toes down for her through all of it. And it took 9 years, as mentioned. But I started my healing journey when in August of last year, when I was able to pick up my sister's property. No one would have been able to do that. And I sat with the DA for the last time and got my last questions out. I sat with the lead detective for the last time and signed off for her stuff. And when I got that envelope with the evidence tape on it in my hands, I breathed a breath of fresh air that I had never been able to do before. The trial took 2 weeks and it was heavy and it was re-traumatizing for me, because now I'm getting all my questions answered. Now I'm seeing things that I wasn't able to see for a long time. But once I got that envelope, I remember feeling like this is where your life starts. This is where you, like, everything you fought, every tear, every anguish, every moment was worth it. And I decided from August of last year, 2024, that I was going to do the work. I was going to heal in the places and spaces that hurt me the most. I was going to write it all out. I already screamed it out. I already cried it out. I'm going to write this out. And I'm going to do this prolifically. I'm going to do this effortlessly. I'm going to do this fearlessly. And so on her birthday, September 20th of last year, I did something that people probably be like, is just like, wow, trauma exposure.
What is that?
So, trauma exposure is where you face things head on that hurt you the most. So, I say you go to the places and spaces that hurt you the most. I'm a Long Beach native. I grew up in Signal Hill, which is a very small city intermixed into Long Beach. And I started at the top of Hilltop Park and I walked down and I went to where I grew up with my aunt in Signal Hill. We were there for a couple years and sat outside her apartment. I look crazy. Didn't care. Just crying in front of an apartment. And then I had walked down to Anaheim and Temple where I did grow up. Um, and then I just let it out. Listen to music that reminded me of my sister. Listen to music that reminded me of my grandmother, my aunts who passed away 2 years after my sister. So that's 4 deaths for me, 1 murder, 3 natural causes. Um, and losing my world back to back with the 2 year span, I had to do this. I had to go to those places. And it brought up really good memories. It brought up a couple of pieces of trauma, but I ended my trauma exposure journey by going back to the alley where my sister was found. Because I told myself, I said, Patricia, this is it. We're moving forward. Not moving on, we're moving forward. We're going to walk through this one more time. You know how she looked. You know where she was. You know what happened. But face this one last monster. I used to detour around that area. Face it one more time and then move forward. That decision, Ryan, was one of the healthiest, biggest decisions that I could have made in my entire lifetime.
Something that I've heard many times, and perhaps you've heard, or someone in the audience, move on.
Mhm.
But here you're saying move forward. Can you break down for you what is the difference?
Moving on is not facing something head on. Moving on is allowing for something that has been festering, that was festered, and you walk right past it. You didn't face it. You weren't willing to see what it was. Moving forward is taking a step to face what it was, what it did to you, and then deciding to do what you need to do to get through that, whether it be walking through the alley for the last time, whether it be facing the places and spaces that hurt me the most. But it means that those areas no longer have a hold on me. And I was able to, as mentioned, I used to detour around that area where my sister was found because I didn't want to face it. But I decided, I said, how can you fully heal and digest everything you know that you've been wanting to know about your sister's murder if you're not willing to face the one place where she was, the ending of her life. So how can you face your childhood traumas or be anew in healing or even begin the healing process if you're not willing to face the places that hurt you the most? So I faced them all in one day, prolifically on her birthday, and decided that I deserve better. I decided that I deserve to live the rest of my life in moving forward and what happened to my sister and losing my concrete maternal figures and deciding that I am going to be Patricia Franklin. And I can now answer who she is because I'm no longer tethered and attached and balled and chained to my past and to a murder trial and to a murder. I am able to fully be me. And that's the beautiful thing. But it is work. It's a lot of work.
You put in a lot of work
Mm-hmm.
and you face a lot of hard things, things that you never asked for.
No.
No, your sister was taken, but through your allowing yourself to grieve and to expose yourself, what would you say is the biggest proof or biggest evidence that you see in your life that you have transformed despite all the hardships that you have encountered?
This right here, this gem. Um, Very catchy. Sis, you need some rice. Um, which came to me by the Holy Spirit because as mentioned in the beginning of this interview, I wasn't looking to write a book. I was looking to divulge these incidences that happened to me in my grief, right? And you could do that in a diary, you could do that in a journal,
Mhm.
but just sitting with myself and understanding my positioning in the world as a vessel, as an advocate, as my sister's voice, I decided that why hide these gems? Why hide these experiences? Why be so fearful of being vulnerable and actually helping other people understand that they're not alone? Helping people understand that grief is a thing, and it takes over your life. And to not avoid those truths of who we are, to not avoid the fact that as I was working a 9 to 5 and running a school and running a household and grieving and advocating for my sister, that I was losing my mind. That I was losing my mind and still paying rent and bills and smiling every day. I really wanted to let women know, that it's okay. You're not weak because you don't want to get up in the morning. You're not weak because you have to start life all over again after something tragic. You're not weak because you're still holding on to some traumas. No, you're normal. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay. It's okay. And you have to be vulnerable within who you are in order to be able to set your standards of what you want to be.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And where can people in the audience get a copy of your book?
Thank you for asking, Ryan. They are able to find Sis You Need Some Rest on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes and Nobles.
Okay, thank you. And now for my last question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, what is your truth that heals?
God, God. I respect everyone's religion, their beliefs, but God, I would have not gotten through where I've been, what I've been through without God. I have my husband, of course, who's very supportive, but there is that spiritual aspect as well. And I grew up Christian, diligently in the church, highly religious, but God, I have seen things that no human being should ever see. I have encountered things that are ugly and evil, but I will say God got me where I'm at today, and I would not be in my right mind without him.
Thank you so much for sharing. And for those in the audience, go get a copy of her book, Sis, You Need Some Rest, as she said, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or on Kindle. And please feel free to share it with your friends, loved one. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please give a like, share, subscribe. Also on Spotify. Again, to our guest, Patricia Franklin, thank you so much for being a guest on the Truth to Heals podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.